Rita Hayworth's father sexually abused her starting when she was 12 years old. He made her quit school. He made her dance with him in nightclubs dressed provocatively. He called her his wife in public, and he treated her like his wife in private. Her mother knew. She tried to intervene, but she was an alcoholic who could barely take care of herself. Rita finally escaped when she was old enough to run. But here's the part that destroyed her. She spent the rest of her life trying to find safety, and every single time, she found another version of her father. 5 husbands, 5 abusive men, one after another. They controlled her, beat her, exploited her, and threw her away. And Hollywood, they watched it happen. They profited from it, and they did absolutely nothing to stop it. This is the story of how abuse doesn't end when you escape. Sometimes it follows you forever. If you're over 55, you know Rita Hayworth, the red hair, the satin nightgown, the photograph that made her the most famous pin-up girl of World War II. You remember her from Gilda in 1946, dancing with Glenn Ford in that black dress. You remember her as the ultimate Hollywood glamour queen, beautiful, confident, untouchable. But that image, the one that made her famous, was built on a foundation of suffering that started long before she ever stepped in front of a camera. Rita Hayworth was born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn in 1918. Her father, Eduardo Cancino, was a professional dancer. Her mother, Volga Hayworth, performed in the Ziegfeld Follies. Dance was the family business. And from the moment Rita could stand on her own 2 feet, her father decided she would be his partner. Not in the way a father should partner with his daughter, in a much darker way. While other children played, Rita trained. While other children went to school, Rita danced. Her principal later remembered her as one of the kindest, most gentle girls she'd ever known. But Rita never had friends. She never played with other children. She would sit on the steps of her house and watch them. Just watch. Until it was time to dance again. And when she turned 12, her father made her quit school entirely. He revived his old act, the dancing casinos, and made Rita his new partner. That's when the abuse began. Eduardo Cancino was a drunk and a gambler. He spent every dollar he made. When there wasn't enough money for food, he forced Rita to catch fish for dinner. If she couldn't, he beat her. But never on the face, never where it would show. He criticized her constantly, tore apart her confidence, made sure she knew she was only valuable for one thing, her body. And then he made her dress like a woman twice her age, low-cut dresses, heavy makeup. He paraded her in front of nightclub audiences in Tijuana and called her his wife. The audiences believed it. They thought Rita was an adult. They thought she was his romantic partner. Eduardo treated her like one. Rita's mother, Volga, knew what was happening. She tried to protect her daughter by bringing Rita into her bed at night. But Volga was drowning in her own alcoholism. She couldn't save herself, much less her child. So Rita endured it. For years, she endured it, until she was old enough to run. But here's the tragedy. Abuse doesn't teach you how to recognize safety. It teaches you to recognize familiarity. And for the rest of Rita Hayworth's life, familiarity meant control, exploitation, and cruelty. She didn't escape her father. She just found new versions of him. By the time Rita was a teenager, she'd caught the attention of Hollywood. Fox signed her to a contract. She was beautiful. She could dance. She had potential. But Fox merged into 20th Century Fox, and the new studio head dropped her contract immediately. Eduardo was furious, not because his daughter lost an opportunity, but because he'd lost a paycheck. So he found another man to manage Rita's career, another man who could make money off her. His name was Edward Judson. He was a car salesman. He was 42 years old. Rita was 17. Judson helped Rita get freelance work. He got her a contract with Columbia Pictures, and then he made his move. He convinced Rita to marry him. She thought she was escaping her father. She thought an older man, a manager, a husband. She thought he would protect her. She was wrong. Judson was exactly like Eduardo. He controlled her money, he controlled her career, and when she didn't obey, he threatened to disfigure her face. But the worst part, Judson pimped her out. He told Rita to sleep with studio executives if it would get her better roles. He ordered her to have an affair with Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia Pictures. Rita refused, and Harry Cohn punished her for it. Cohn bugged her dressing room. He stationed a maid outside her door to report her every move. He used the bathroom in front of her to humiliate her. He screamed at her, belittled her, made her life hell. But Rita stood her ground, and slowly, her career started to take off anyway. By 1941, Rita Hayworth was a star. She appeared on the cover of Life magazine. She danced opposite Fred Astaire. She was finally successful enough that she didn't need Judson anymore. So she tried to leave him. And that's when he threatened to kill her. Judson told Rita he would disfigure her if she left. He didn't love her. He loved her paycheck. But Rita had something he didn't count on. A new boyfriend. Actor Victor Mature was physically intimidating enough that Judson backed off. But Judson still demanded every dollar Rita had earned during their marriage. And Rita gave it to him, every cent. She had to borrow money from friends just to eat. But she was free, finally. Or so she thought. In 1943, Rita met Orson Welles. He was a genius, a director, actor, writer, one of the most brilliant minds in Hollywood. And when he saw Rita's famous pin-up photo in Life magazine, he became obsessed with meeting her. When they finally met, Welles was shocked. The confident, sensual woman in the photographs was nothing like the real Rita. She was quiet, insecure, timid. Welles said he had to pretend to read her mind just to get her to open up. They married. Rita tried to be the perfect wife. She read the books he loved. She supported his political ambitions. She got pregnant, hoping a child would bring them closer. But Welles cheated, constantly, with Judy Garland, with Gloria Vanderbilt, with women whose names never made the papers. Rita knew. Everyone knew. But she stayed, because this was what love looked like to her. Men who took what they wanted and gave nothing back. In 1948, she filed for divorce. But even after it was over, she couldn't move on. Actress Shelley Winters found Rita at a Christmas party, asleep under a pile of fur coats, crying herself into exhaustion. Rita's pattern was set. She would fall for a man, she would give him everything, and he would destroy her. Her third husband was Prince Ali Khan, a playboy who collected women the way other men collected cars. He pursued Rita relentlessly. When she resisted, he rented the house across from hers and showered her with gifts until she gave in. She married him because she was pregnant. And within a year, she realized he was cheating on her just like all the others. She fled back to America with their daughter, Yasmin. She fought him in court for custody. She won. But the damage was done. By now, Rita was drinking heavily. She was erratic on set. She couldn't remember her lines. People assumed she was an alcoholic. She wasn't. But no one would figure that out for another 20 years. Her fourth husband was Dick Hames, a singer drowning in debt. Rita paid off all his debts. And in return, he gave her a black eye in public. Her fifth and final husband was producer James Hill. Actor Charlton Heston later recalled having dinner with the couple. Hill spent the entire meal insulting Rita in front of everyone. Heston left the table in disgust and later said it was one of his greatest regrets that he didn't do more to help her. 5 husbands, 5 versions of the same man. Men who controlled her, men who used her, men who threw her away when she stopped being useful. And through it all, Hollywood kept casting her. They kept making money off her. They kept watching her fall apart. And they did nothing. Because Rita Hayworth was profitable. And in Hollywood, profit matters more than protection. By the 1960s, Rita Hayworth was unraveling. She had angry outbursts. She forgot her lines on set. During the filming of The Wrath of God, her condition was so bad that scenes had to be shot one line at a time. People assumed she was drunk. Rita had been photographed drinking for years. Everyone in Hollywood gossiped about her alcoholism. But Rita wasn't an alcoholic. In 1980, 20 years after her symptom began, doctors finally diagnosed her correctly. Rita Hayworth had Alzheimer's disease. At the time, Alzheimer's was badly understood. It had been discovered in 1906, but for 70 years, it had been largely ignored by the medical community. Most people had never even heard of it. Rita became the first major public figure to be diagnosed with the disease. Yasmin Aga Khan made the decision to go public with the diagnosis. That decision changed everything. Suddenly, Alzheimer's had a face. It had a name people recognized, and it had funding. Yasmin Aga Khan became president of Alzheimer's Disease International. She started the Rita Hayworth Gala, an annual fundraiser that had raised millions of dollars for research. Rita Hayworth, the woman Hollywood had used and discarded, became the face of a disease that would help millions of people. But here's the part that haunts anyone who knows her full story. Rita spent her final years confused, disoriented, and unable to remember who she was. The woman who had been exploited her entire life by her father, by her husbands, by Hollywood, spent her last days not even recognizing her own reflection. Yasmin cared for her mother until the end, and on May 14, 1987, Rita Hayworth died at age 68. But before she died, one more truth came out, a truth that explained everything. In the 1980s, biographer Barbara Leeming interviewed Orson Welles for a book about Rita, and during that interview, Welles broke down. He told Leeming the secret Rita had confessed to him during their marriage, the secret she'd carried her entire life. Her father had sexually abused her. When the book was published, people finally understood. They understood why Rita had married 5 abusive men. They understood why she couldn't recognize safety. They understood why she kept returning to the same pattern. Welles told Leeming that Rita had once said she was happiest during their marriage, and that statement haunted him for the rest of his life. If that was happiness, Welles said, I can't imagine what terrors and miseries she'd suffered otherwise. He called her one of the dearest, sweetest women that ever lived. But he also admitted something else. He'd failed her, just like everyone else had failed her. When Rita was trying to decide whether to marry Prince Ali Khan, she called Welles to Rome. She begged him to take her back. She set the scene with candles and champagne. She waited for him in a negligee, and Welles said no. He told her to marry Khan. He told her they could always get divorced later if it didn't work out. He knew Khan was wrong for her, but he sent her to him anyway. Years later, Welles said that decision destroyed him. Because he knew Rita was looking for someone to save her, and no one ever did. Not her mother, not her husbands, not Hollywood, not even the man she said she loved most. Everyone failed Rita Hayworth, and she paid the price for it until the day she died. Here's the part that should make us all uncomfortable. Hollywood knew. Studio executives knew Eduardo Cancino was parading his underage daughter in nightclubs. They knew she'd been pulled out of a school at 12. They knew she didn't have a normal childhood. They knew Edward Judson was pimping her out to executives for better roles. They knew Harry Cohn was bugging her dressing room and humiliating her. They knew Orson Welles was cheating on her. They knew Prince Ali Khan was a serial adulterer. They knew Dick Haymes was beating her. They knew all of it, and they kept casting her. They kept making money off her. They kept putting her image on posters, in magazines, on playing cards sent to soldiers overseas. Because Rita Hayworth was profitable, and in Hollywood, that's all that mattered. When Rita started forgetting her lines in the 1960s, directors complained. Producers got frustrated. But no one asked why. No one suggested she see a doctor. No one considered that something might be medically wrong. They just assumed she was drunk, and they fired her. By the time Rita was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1980, she'd been suffering for 20 years. 20 years of confusion, memory loss, and disorientation. 20 years when she could have been treated, when her decline could have been slowed, when she could have had some dignity. But Hollywood had already moved on. She wasn't profitable anymore. so they forgot about her. Rita Hayworth's story isn't just about one woman's tragedy. It's about a system that chews people up and spits them out. A system that protects abusers. A system that values profit over people. A system that destroys women and then blames them for being destroyed. Rita was abused by her father. Then she was pimped out by her first husband. Then she was cheated on by her second. Then she was exploited by her third, beaten by her fourth, and humiliated by her fifth. And through all of it, Hollywood kept the cameras rolling. They turned her pain into profit. They sold her image to millions. And when she couldn't perform anymore, they threw her away. That's the real story of Rita Hayworth. Not the glamorous pin-up girl, not the confident movie star. The real Rita was a 12-year-old girl who was sexually abused by her father and spent the rest of her life trying to escape him. She never did. Because abuse doesn't end when you leave. It rewires you. It teaches you that love looks like control, that safety looks like danger, that the only thing valuable about you is what someone else can take. Rita Hayworth learned those lessons early, and she never unlearned them. Hollywood didn't care. They got their movies, they got their money, they got their icon. And Rita got a life of suffering that ended in confusion and silence. Before I let you go, there's one more thing about Rita Hayworth that matters. After she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, her daughter Yasmin made the decision to go public. That decision was controversial. Some people thought it was exploitative. Some people thought Rita deserved privacy in her final years. But Yasmin understood something important. Her mother had been used her entire life. By her father, by her husbands, by Hollywood. For once, Rita's suffering could serve a purpose that actually helped people. Because of Yasmin's decision, Alzheimer's research received millions of dollars in funding. The disease, which had been ignored for decades, suddenly became a national priority. Rita Hayworth, the woman Hollywood had chewed up and thrown away, became the face of a cause that would help millions of people around the world. It wasn't the ending she deserved. She deserved to be protected. She deserved to be loved. She deserved to escape the pattern of abuse that defined her life. But at least her suffering meant something in the end. Rita Hayworth died on May 14, 1987. She was 68 years old. Orson Welles died 2 years later. He said something that should haunt anyone who watched Rita's movies without knowing what she endured to make them. He said, "Rita Hayworth was one of the dearest, sweetest women that ever lived. And if the time she spent with me was the happiest of her life, I can't imagine what terror she must have suffered before and after." That's the tragedy of Rita Hayworth. She was kind. She was gentle. She was talented. She deserved love. And instead, she got abused over and over and over again. From her father, from her husbands, from Hollywood. No one saved her. And by the time people understood why she needed saving, it was too late. Rita Hayworth's story isn't just about one woman. It's about how abuse creates patterns that victims can't escape. It's about how systems protect abusers and punish survivors. And it's about how Hollywood has always been willing to profit from pain. If you want more stories where beauty was a trap and fame was prison, subscribe. Because Hollywood doesn't create stars, it creates survivors who never got the chance to heal.